Title: The Vanishing Lake. The small town of Oak Ridge was known for its serene landscapes, friendly community, and, most famously, its picturesque lake. For generations, Lake Vale had been the heart of the town, crystal clear waters surrounded by dense pine forests, where locals would spend their weekends fishing, boating, or simply enjoying the peace that the water offered. But the tranquility of the lake was soon to be disturbed by a mystery that would haunt the town for years to come. One chilly October morning, the townsfolk woke up to a sight that sent shivers down their spines. Lake Vale, which had stood unchanged for centuries, had inexplicably receded by several feet overnight. The once lush, vibrant shoreline was now a muddy wasteland, exposing tree stumps and rocks that hadn't seen the light of day for generations. But the most shocking revelation was the eerie ruins of a submerged village peeking out from the water's edge. The discovery sent a wave of excitement through Oak Ridge. Local historians and archaeologists flocked to the site, eager to uncover the secrets of the sunken settlement. Rumors spread quickly about what could have caused such a drastic change in the lake, but no one had any answers. Among those drawn to the scene was Detective Claire Morrison, a seasoned investigator with a troubled past and an unbreakable bond with Lake Vale. Claire had grown up in Oak Ridge, spending her childhood on the lake's shores. The lake had always been a place of solace for her, a refuge from the turbulent life she led with her distant father and an absent mother who had vanished without a trace when Claire was just 10 years old. Now, standing on the exposed shoreline, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. As the days passed, the water level continued to drop, revealing more of the hidden village. Among the ruins, the archaeologists found old cobblestone streets, remnants of homes, and even a crumbling church. But the most unsettling discovery was a series of stone slabs, each etched with symbols and names that matched those of people who had mysteriously disappeared from Oak Ridge over the last 50 years. Claire's curiosity turned into a full-blown investigation when the body of a missing teenager, Lily Turner, was found among the ruins. She had vanished 3 weeks prior, and her body was eerily preserved, as though she had been submerged for centuries. Her eyes were wide open, staring into nothingness, and her hands were clasped around a small stone carved with strange, archaic symbols similar to those found on the slabs.
The case quickly grew darker as Claire discovered a chilling pattern. Every decade, like clockwork, someone from Oak Ridge had disappeared without a trace. Their bodies never found until now. With each receding foot of the lake, more bodies surfaced, each one holding a stone marked with the same disturbing symbols. The local police were baffled, and whispers of curses, sacrifices, and ancient rituals began to circulate among the townspeople. Desperate for answers, Claire sought out the help of Dr. Alan Richter, a renowned archaeologist specializing in ancient rituals and folklore. Dr. Richter was fascinated by the stones, explaining that the symbols were part of an old ritualistic language used by a long-forgotten cult that worshipped water spirits. According to local legend, the submerged village was once inhabited by a sect that believed the lake was a living entity that demanded offerings human sacrifices to keep it alive. When the cult was banished from the village centuries ago, they cursed the lake, vowing that it would one day reclaim the town in vengeance. Claire was skeptical but couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. She spent countless hours poring over old records, uncovering a string of disappearances that stretched back further than anyone had realized. Each person had vanished near the lake, and none had been found until now. The deeper Claire dug, the more she uncovered about the town's dark history. Old newspaper clippings told of bizarre rituals held by the water's edge, mysterious deaths ruled as drownings, and rumors of a secret society that worshipped the lake even after the cult had been eradicated. Claire's own family seemed to be connected to the curse. Her great-grandfather had been one of the founding members of Oak Ridge, and was rumored to have been involved in the village's original destruction. As Claire continued her investigation, she began experiencing strange occurrences. She heard whispers in the night, felt cold spots in her home, and saw fleeting shadows out of the corner of her eye. The lake seemed to be calling to her, and she couldn't resist its pull. She started having vivid dreams of the submerged village, visions of people in white robes, chanting by the water's edge, and a shadowy figure that seemed to be watching her. One night, driven by a sense of urgency, Claire returned to the lake alone. The water had receded further, revealing the full extent of the village. She wandered through the ruins, feeling an overwhelming sense of déjà vu, as if she had been there before. In the middle of the village, She found a large stone altar, covered in moss and etched with the same symbols as the stones found with the bodies.
As she approached the altar, Claire's vision blurred and she was suddenly transported back in time. She found herself standing among the cult members, witnessing a ritual that had been lost to history. The leader of the cult, a tall figure in a hooded robe, was chanting in a language Claire couldn't understand. She watched in horror as a young girl was brought to the altar, her wrists bound and her eyes wide with terror. The cult leader raised a knife, and the girl's scream echoed through the night as the blade descended. Claire snapped back to reality, gasping for breath. She realized that the leader of the cult had worn a necklace with a distinctive emblem, a family crest that matched her own. The horrifying truth hit her like a tidal wave. Her ancestors were responsible for the curse on the lake, and it had been passed down through generations. Determined to end the cycle, Claire decided to confront the lake's dark past. She returned to the altar with the stones collected from the bodies, intending to break the curse. As she placed the stones on the altar, the water began to rise rapidly, flooding the village ruins. Claire was trapped, struggling to stay above the surging tide. Just as she was about to be pulled under, she heard the faint whispers of the cult members, chanting the words that would finally set the lake free. In a final desperate act, Claire repeated the chant, feeling the weight of centuries of guilt and pain lifting from her shoulders. The water stilled, and the lake slowly began to recede, returning to its natural state. The bodies were gone, the ruins submerged once more, and the curse was lifted at last. Claire emerged from the water, exhausted but relieved. The lake was quiet, its secrets buried beneath the surface. She knew the town would never be the same, but at least the nightmare was over. As she looked out over the water, Claire felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The lake had taken enough from her family and her town, but she had finally broken the cycle. Oakridge slowly returned to normal, and the mystery of the vanishing lake became another story whispered around campfires. But Claire knew the truth that some secrets are meant to stay buried, and some waters are best left undisturbed.